Most of you know about Frank Laubach, some of you may not. He was a Christian minister, a missionary. In the 1930s, he was in the Philippines. And his book, by the way, is called Letters by a Modern Mystic, letters to his father while he was doing this service. And he was put among a population of Filipinos who were totally Muslim, and he didn't speak their language. They were not interested in what he had to share about Christianity, and he couldn't communicate with them. His family was not with him. He was all alone. He had some time on his hands, and what he decided to do was to practice the presence of God. With a great deal of patience and persistence. And he would try to have a constant conversation with God. Now, how do you do that? I mean, God doesn't always have a lot to say, or at least not that we can hear. But he just decided that he was going to speak, and when he couldn't speak, in a rare occasion when he was with someone else, he would think, but try to keep that conversation going in his mind and try to have God do most of the talking. And of course, a lot of the time he was just making it up. Of course he was, in the beginning. But as time progressed, it started to feel more and more there were things coming through him that he hadn't made up. That were coming from somewhere else, from another consciousness. God's consciousness. And he started to feel it as a living reality. And in time, as he learned the language, he was able to start serving the local people, not as a missionary so much as someone who could help them become literate, learn to read and write. He began to be able to do the same thing in activity, to feel that it wasn't just a matter of thinking or even speaking on God's behalf, but acting on God's behalf. The whole principle, really, or one huge principle of karma yoga, just feeling that you're not doing anything, that God is flowing through you. And so one of the things that's so beautiful about his story is he's so normal. You know, you read stories of some other saints, and he certainly was a saint. But you read stories of the famous saints, like a Saint Francis or a Yogananda or many others. You think, I can't relate to that very well. But you read Frank Laubach and you think, maybe I could do that. Maybe even I could do that. And it wasn't easy, and it's so beautiful the way he presents it in this book, because he's so open about his failures, about his inability to do this. His goal was to do it all day long, every day, every minute of every hour of every day that he was awake. And he was very frank about his continual failures to be able to do that. But he was also very frank about his continuing improvement in his ability to do that. And it's very, very inspiring. One of the things I remember most about him was even that book. It was a story that's told by one of the ministers here, Catherine Kairavi, whose parents were missionaries also, and they had an opportunity to go to a big conference of missionaries at which Frank Laubach was in attendance. And Frank was asked to give the invocation, the opening prayer at this gathering of missionaries. And Catherine's parents said it was so striking, it felt like his prayer was simply turning up the volume on something that was already happening inside of him, allowing people to listen to the conversation for a while, and then turning the volume back down. That was his prayer, but it was just something that was constantly going on in him. How did he get to that point? Well, patient, persistent practice. But the thing is, he got there. He got there from a very unglamorous, unsuccessful start, which is the same place that we come from. Very unglamorous, unsuccessful starts, but he got there with that patience.